Welcome to the StudentID podcast. Today we have Emma Katama.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank
No
you
worries.
for joining
Thank
us.
you for having me.
Well, so we prepared some questions and we saw that you did something particular for your high school. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
The exchange year?
I think we saw the sailing.
The sailing high school experience, the
Yes.
Scandinavian model to the full extent.
Okay, so basically it's a school. It's American, but it's mostly Norwegian students going there. So it's a boarding school, but it's placed on a ship instead of in a building. So basically you're traveling to 20 different countries during the 10 months you're there with people from all over the world. So half of the school is Norwegian, 30 students, and the rest are from everywhere: China, India, Mexico, Switzerland, and a bit different places. And then so the concept is that you stay on the boat for 10 months, you don't go home. Your parents can come and see you every third month in whatever port you're at there.
They're looking at you.
And yeah, and then you sail. So you work 2 hours every night. You work 2 hours every day because you're a part of the crew as a student. So a lot of people compare it to like the sweet life on deck, but it's not a cruise ship. It's an old, fully rigged sail ship. So you have to actually physically do the sail handling. They need 30 people on deck to work at almost at all hours. So there's always 10 people doing watches, and then you do your 2 hour day watches, night watches every day. And then when you're in port, you have time off, so you can go out and explore. You do different field studies. So for example, we were very lucky with our itinerary. So we went to South Africa, we went to Bahamas, we went to Brazil twice, and Namibia. It was really the most incredible experience of my life. And I till this day, I still thank my parents for allowing me to go, because you just get so close, and you really learn the value of team, being in a team, because you're on a ship and you're with the same 60 students for a year. You don't talk to anyone else. Sometimes when you're in port you meet other locals, but these are gonna be your people. So you know that everything you do has effect on someone else. If you're sick, means that someone has to pick up your watch. So you have to really think about it. You get very conscious of the collective living, because we're living 60 people in a room. So below deck we had the hammocks in the roof and the sofas around, and in that room we studied, we ate, we slept. So that was our entire world, and based off of that, it was just up to us to make it the best experience. So yeah, it's called A+ World Academy, and it's not very international right now, because it's really taking off in Norway, because so many Norwegian students go, and also because it's a Norwegian ship, we get a discount, so we pay half the price than international students. So that's why it's more common in Norway. But now I know that there's in Netherlands they have a school called School of Float, which is pretty much similar, but most of them are more focused on the sailing, while we did normal American high school for 1 year.
So that it was a lot of information, and I think Alice and I are quite fascinated, and I think people listening are as well very interested. But so let me get this straight. How many stops do you have? You start from Norway, you say you go to Bahamas, Namibia, South Africa. Do you travel by night as well? How does the
sailing work?
Do you just anchor only at a port?
You always sail, you're always using wind as your fuel, kind of. And the thing is, when we're sailing, we sail 24 hours. As long as there's wind, we're sailing. And then when you get closer to land, sometimes you have to anchor up to get the captain to lead you into different channels and stuff. But you sail all the time, and that's the thing. While we're at sea, you study. We don't have Saturdays and Sundays. We just have the same 5 academic days that go on repeat until you're inland. So it's very kind of repetitive in that way. But at the same time, it's you have a lot of time to think, because I was 20 countries, I'm gonna see so much.
20.
But you actually spend the majority of the time at sea.
Yeah.
Because it's it's big distances, and it also depends on weather, so the itinerary kind of varies a bit. There was a couple of different island groups we didn't go to because there was either too rough or too little wind for us to actually go there. But usually they stick to ish the same itinerary, so you go from Europe to South America, and you cross to Africa, and you cross back to Africa to South America, go to North America, and back to Europe. And that's your 10 months.
I'm just thinking like that must be like super scary to be like in the middle of the ocean. Like you have no private space. You have to stay with the same people all the time. Like how can you handle this?
I think it's definitely not something I would recommend for everybody. And I'm very honest with that because I honestly don't think it is for everybody. Like if you're someone who needs and like values like your private space, you don't get any of that. So you have your locker and that's basically the only thing that's only yours, and the rest, like there's always going to be people around. Like there's only 3 bathrooms for the like into all of the girls and all of the boys, so you get really close. But I think like after a while you just like adjust a bit, and like if you need your time you can always climb the mast and like sit from above and look at the ocean from there. But I thought it was going to go more crazy, but I actually found it mostly like confusing because like I would wake up and I would be in the middle of the ocean. I'd be like asking myself like how did I end up in this position? Like my friends are back in Norway doing like finishing their high school and I'm here like heading to somewhere, and it was just like almost like surreal, so you couldn't almost like believe what you were doing. Like it wasn't until like 2 years afterwards I was like what? Like I did happened? That? Yeah. Like wow, that's so random. Like yeah.
And how are the academics there? Like how does it work?
So it was American high school, and we had, I think you selected 6 different courses, but it was basically like algebra, world history, world conflicts, Spanish, so very like typical school studies. And then we did our final exams in port. So we have 1 extra year, so we could, if some of our courses didn't match up, we could fix it when we came home. But like the Americans, they had to make sure they did all their AP course and then they got everything in line because they were going to go to college. So they were kind of in a like a little bit different situation, but they 100%. Always made sure to try to adjust. But it's also a very new school. Like it started in 2016, so like every year they're doing a lot of changes. Like my sister went the following year, and
your sister went as well.
My young, like I basically forced her. I was like, you really need to go. You're gonna thank me. So, and she went, and she was super happy because she also like loves traveling, and for her it was just like a great experience. But there's also like I would say like 1 student that drops out every year. Like they figure out because like the first 2 weeks you're seasick. And you're in the North Sea.
This is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So how does it work?
It's really like a good icebreaker because you get to know people at their worst. Like you've never said hello to them and like you're puking in the gutters. And you're like, yeah, I'm Emma. Like, yeah, I'm actually really fun, but I'm just not at my game right now. And like that's how you got to know everybody. Like you're just holding hands and handing out salt crackers. Yeah. So like the first 3 weeks were really intense because like you were either sick or helping the sick. It was a good icebreaker. Like you really got to know people like at their worst from the beginning, which is kind of I prefer that because in other times like first impressions are never true. Yeah. So here it was very real from the beginning.
So from there, how'd you end up here?
From there, I went home to Norway and I finished my last year of high school. And then in Norway, it's mandatory with military service for both boys and girls. So I was called in to do the military. And so I had to do that for 11 months. And I was in the army section. So I wasn't like in a Marine or Air Force because I'd already been at sea. So I was like, hey, I'm going to try something different. Like, a boat was great, but different times. So I spent 11 months up in the north of Norway doing my service, which people seem very shocked about in Isade, but in Norway it's a very common thing. Because, like, I would say at least, like, 70% of all boys go and 40% of all girls go.
So is it mandatory or it's a choice?
It's mandatory.
So why only 30% of girls?
They don't have capacity for everyone. But at the end of the day, it's their decision. It's not yours. So they send you a form and you fill it out. Like, are you interested? How well, like, what's your physical? You do, like, mental tests and, like, a lot of checks. And then they decide, like, based on your answers, if they want you or not. But even though if you write, I really don't want to, I really don't want to, if they want you, you're going.
Wow.
So I really didn't want to.
Really?
No, I really didn't because I already did, like, a year of discipline. Like, the ship was, like, I got to know the teamwork and so I had a captain, I had the discipline. And then army is like that times 100. So I was like, I wanted to travel, like I wanted to do other things. But now I'm very happy I did. And I wasn't like, when I got the news, I wasn't like devastated because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So it's like...
And you're serving your country at the end of the day, so...
Yeah, It's
something to be proud about.
It's something to be proud about, but it's also... when you're there, you don't think you're serving your country. And now when like looking back, knowing that if something happens, I would be the one that would have to go back and serve my country. I don't know how I think about that. But a lot of people actually stay. Like half of my troop actually stayed and continued working in the military. In Norway, it's different than most other countries, I must also say. Like, we have really good training. It's not like in the US where people scream at you. Like, you get respect if you respect them. It's not like they're trying to show you, oh, I'm the big boss and you're nothing. Like, they take, if you have like any advice or any like perspective, they would love for you to share, as long as it's like it helps with like some information. So I would say it's helpful, and also you get a salary and money when you're done. So it's an okay package, and a lot of people like get education through there, so it's a good thing. But I don't know, I would never do it again.
Would you recommend it to be mandatory for like all countries? Do you think that's beneficial that it's mandatory? Because for you, if you wouldn't have chosen to go there, but you say it was beneficial in the end. So what's your opinion on that?
I would say I wouldn't say like. The thing is, for me, it was beneficial because I feel like you learn a lot from living so close to people, like that close. Like, you're 6 people in one room for 10 months and it's the same guys. Like, it's always going to be the same people. And like, that's why I feel like sometimes in life you have to put yourself in like uncomfortable positions to actually learn. Like, it's so easy to get very comfortable because life is good. Like, we're living in Barcelona, but like, you learn the most when you're stripped out of all your comfort and you're just down to yourself, interacting with others and how to get through your day. So that's like kind of why I say like it's beneficial, and I think like maybe more people don't necessarily have to go to the military to get that experience, but I think it's a very good value to bring with you for the rest of your life, to like be able to be, at least put yourself in the position of being a collective and not just an individual, if you know what I mean. Because I don't know, I feel like a lot of people are very like much focused on themselves, and not that they're being egoistic, but sometimes it could be good to just be in a position where you're forced to be anything but yourself.
Okay, and I feel
Really
like you're
Yeah.
putting yourself in lots of uncomfortable positions, and do you have an idea of what would be your next one, if you have in mind?
Right now, I don't have like a big project. I really want to do a full marathon before I like. That's like for now until 2 years. I want to do that, and rugby is like that's my 1 day a week where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to do this no matter what, because I really love rugby and it's super fun, but sometimes it can be really tough and you can be really scared. So like for me now, while I'm at the StudentID beside school, that's like my tough. Going to tournaments is super fun, but at the same time it is very physically, and well, most physically, but also like you have to get into kind of like the warrior mentality of man versus man. So that's like my thing right now, I would say.
And would it be like the following of what you've learned in the military, or not at all?
I think, I definitely apply a lot of the things I've learned from the military, like, to my daily life, and especially kind of in rugby, because it's a team, and it's just like the importance of making sure that everybody actually has a significant value in the team, and if you're having a bad day, it might affect everyone else. So like being able to like focus on the good things, and when you're having a bad day, or like we're having bad games and we're losing and we're losing and we're losing, being able to just tell the people around you what you would like people to tell you, focusing on building each other up, and in that way you get this like complete circle, and it might become something. That's what I always think. Like when I'm down, I'm like, okay, what do I tell other people who are also down right now? What would I love to hear? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but like you have to keep having that mindset, I think.
Well, I love the message behind it.
Yeah, I think more people should be aware of that, and the collective mindset, like you said, is kind of being lost in our very individualistic centric society where we all focus on our goals, our missions, our studies, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have like any advice on, or any thoughts on how can we become a more collective society, and how can we create that path for each other and to be together, you know, in that sense, like through sports, through whatever means?
Yes. Yeah, well, I think, of course, like, it sounds very cringe, but I think people really underestimate like the value of good teamwork. I don't think people understand how much you can create if you're able to build the peers around you up. Because the better they get, the better you get. And like, one thing I always tell myself is like, we're only as good as our worst man. So like, our entire team is based on like, okay, say you're running a race and you have one person that's really slow. If everybody helps that really slow person, the entire team can do a lot more because we're taking up the speed. But if the first person who's really, really fast just runs off, you're not doing any team effort. And in the end, the last person is still going to finish in his own slow time. So that's kind of what it's hard to apply every day and in all team projects and so on. But it's really important to like make sure that always you're not better on your own than you are with other people, and like you are what other people are to you. So you have to make sure that people around you are helping and building you up, and if you build other people up, I feel like the average can always be raised, but that means you would have to work with people and not just be yourself. But it sounds really cringe because like, you can achieve so much more when you're with other people, but I think it's just when you get into a really good team and you experience that, like that's when you understand like, okay, getting better at communication in groups, like all of these kind of things can actually make a big change. But you have to make sure that like nobody's running off and you're starting with the bottom up kind of. So I don't know if that really answered your question.
No.
But
That answers it plenty, and I think it's a great perspective to have. You say it's cringe that we value teamwork. We kind of throw it out there like it's a word, like another, like you have to have
leadership
skills,
and organizational behavior.
Yeah, communication skills, teamwork. But if you look at the true essence of it, it's actually really useful, as you say, if you can get into that flow state. And you've been in these situations, you know, through the sailing, through the military, 10 months. It's something very significant.
And it's also a lot more fulfilling to achieve something with other people than on your own. Even though it can be like, okay, you get accepted to a school. That's your own job, but like being able to build something and actually achieve those goals, that's another level.
And do you think it's always been part of you? Or it's because through these experiences you've learned that? Or you've always been a selfless person?
No. I think definitely like these experiences have shaped me a lot. And I've always been like a very outgoing person, but that doesn't mean I've been like reflected at all on my own behavior and how I treat other people. But I think like especially going through those like 2 years of like intense living with people on top, you become very aware of how people work, how different people work, which is also an important thing because it doesn't help to push everyone, you know. Some people just need more of their time and you have to learn how to adapt to that. But I think you definitely need to go out of your comfort zone or seek something different to have it. Or you can, of course, like team projects in the side, they can help you so much. But when you're doing something that doesn't just depend on like one criteria, like you have to change your entire like lifestyle, like wake up earlier, take other people's shifts, or cleaning someone else's gun because they couldn't do it. That's when you learn, okay, that member took my watch when I was down. I'm going to do that for him. You know what I mean? So I definitely wouldn't have been the same person if I didn't go through that. And I honestly don't think I would have been here. That's for sure.
Can you just tell us what was your like day-to-day routine in the military? What did you do there exactly?
Yeah, so you wake up at 5:45, and at 6 you have to have your bed folded and your uniform on, and that needs to be ready. And then from 6 to 7:15 you clean the room, like deep clean the room every day. Like there cannot be one sand corn on the floor. And if you do, everybody's standing outside and doing push-ups and waiting for you to rewash the entire room.
Okay.
So then,
has that happened to you?
Yeah, every day for the first 3 weeks, nobody got any of their rooms accepted.
Okay.
Because we were new people, like we were new, and it wasn't up to their standard. And unless we meet their standards, there's going to be a penalty.
So you got so strong in
Yeah, I've never been
weeks.
Healthier. It was also Corona, so we couldn't go out. So I was thriving on the inside.
Okay.
And then, well, you go eat breakfast, and then like the daily activities kind of depend on what period you're in. But like, for example, my like main task was being a tank driver. So usually it would be like either doing something like different scenarios with the tank. You'd have 1 month, for example, where we would focus on only maintenance, or 1 month where we focus on like we'd have like a simulation war where we basically play laser tag with all like the tanks, and you'd have like a laser tag on your gun, and it would feel, and you would have it on like your headset, like.
So how many people are like in the simulation?
Everybody. It's not a simulation. You're out there, but you put laser. Like,
no, of course, but it's fake, yeah. But how many people are doing the simulation? How many soldiers?
You can be many battalions together. It's basically like almost like real war. You just laser instead, and like they can throw in different scenarios. So all of a sudden you can hear on your microphone like incoming, like there's coming a bomb, and then you have to like quickly adapt. So yeah, and so it actually really depends. Like every day was very different. In the beginning, you have the standard 8-week boot camp where they're basically just prepping you to like be able to survive out in the woods, getting dressed for the winter, like, because it's Norway, it's minus 30 degrees. Dressing is like, people don't understand how important it is. Yeah, like you need to know your layers and all of that. And yeah, it varies a lot. But then you'd work until like 6 usually, and then you'd have like 4 hours of time off, and then at 11 lights out, and they would go and check that everybody was in their bed at 10. And then you do the same every day.
Are you disconnected from the world in the sense like news, your parents, your family? How can you keep contact with them? How does that work?
When in the army?
Yeah.
That was actually quite fine. You call them in your free time. You miss them a lot more than I've ever missed them ever before. When I was on the ship, I never called them. Like, I called them like on big occasions, but I was like just like taking everything in. But in the military, I called home every time I could just to like get some support, because it was rough, and you were extreme. Like, I've never been that tired in my life. Like, it was extremely like hard. I'm not gonna underestimate that, because you like sometimes you're out and you're living outside for like a week. You sleep in a tent with 12 people. You never sleep more than like 2 hours consecutively, and the next 4 days I'm gonna do this. So like you have to
mentally,
you have to be a bit a bit hard in the head, but at the same time everybody's in the same situation, so there's nothing to complain about. Because nothing, like, it is what it is. So like that's why it's we always try to like not talk about the things we couldn't have. Like, we didn't talk about food, we didn't talk about family, we didn't talk about boyfriends, we didn't talk about all the things you can miss, because that was just like, well, you're not gonna get it, so just wait for your time. These are your friends, these are your people, and even though you don't love sitting and scrubbing the floor for an hour a day, it's still your people. So you make it your own.
I think not a lot of people go through that discomfort coming from a like quote unquote comfortable life. I mean, to go through that and to have the different perspectives really makes you value what you have daily life.
Yeah, and you appreciate work a lot more. Like, having worked really, really, really hard, you start to understand that like very few things are very easy. So like, even though we're like, we're gonna do the same pattern we've done for 2 weeks, well, somebody makes a tiny mistake and we have to redo it, and that means that 8 different processes has to start. So you really get like a perspective and like respect of the actual amount of work it takes to finish something from start, following it up until it's done. Now like teamwork is my go-to, and I really try not to push it on other people, but to see the value of it, that's gonna take you very far in my opinion. And also if you're like able to achieve those kind of situation without having to put yourself in the military. Like, just doing something that's not super comfortable can be very nice in the end. Maybe not right there and then, but like looking back, you impress yourself and you see like, wow, I never thought I was gonna walk that mountain, but somebody forced me to do it 8 times, and I'm like, wow, okay. You really impress yourself, and like the potential like everyone actually has is so much bigger than people think.
Just makes me feel about what you told me, like I think it was a couple of weeks ago, about like thinking that, wanting to go over your limits. Like the thing that you say, that we think we have like limits that we don't actually have. But you have to react to that.
No, I totally agree with what Emma is saying. I think we can put ourselves in positions where discomfort teaches us more, because if you're always doing your daily routine things that you know you can do, then you're never going to grow. If you go outside your comfort zone and you say, okay, I'm going to do this marathon you're talking about, do this hard task that I'm not used to, interact with other people, that's where I can see, okay, this person thinks like this, how can I apply this to my life? and this experience, you know? Like, I don't have that experience. That's why I'm so admirative of people that do and that actually have been through hard times. I try to put myself in uncomfortable situations, but never to the same extent because I don't have the same framework.
Yeah,
you know?
but it's not very normal.
Exactly. So, but it's still something that I thrive to do, and I think people should thrive to do. So, okay, do you have any, like, simple thing, someone that doesn't have the opportunity to go to the military or doesn't want to, they can push themselves in their daily lives or something, whatever, it's relationship-wise, do a task that they're not used to doing? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I don't have like a specific like kind of tip, but
No,
I would
didn't
like
mean to
people to
formulate,
just
yeah.
be more aware of their like own potential, because just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean that you can't do it. So people, I don't know, like stop limiting yourself and telling yourself that you can't do it. Me, for example, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish a marathon, but I'm telling myself I'm going to do it so that I at least try, and if it doesn't work, at least I tried, you know? So that's why try to like not limit yourself and like, okay, you might not get it the first time, you might not get it the second time, but there's also a lot of learning in failing. So at least you're doing something, and it's going to help you in one way or another. You might not finish it, but you might have learned, oh, okay, this plan worked really well for me, or when I trained like this and this was really fun. I met some other people along the way. Like, there's so many things that can happen, but it's just important to like get out there and just try. So like, for example, like rugby, never played rugby before, but I was like, okay, I want to make friends in Asada, so let's try this. And now it's like my favorite part of the school. Like, I really, really love it. But in the beginning, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I was super scared, and it looked a bit violent. But then I was like, okay, I played handball before, so it works. So that's why, like, you just have to continue trying to do new things. And, like, it doesn't need to be a marathon. It could be, like, a hard dish you want to make. It can be you want to do better in this course, or you want to get a summer job, or you want to feel this way, or, like, fix your sleep cycle. Like, anything. But just try to do it, because even though if you try or fail, you still learn. There's a lot of value in just trying to do different things. Some people come from like school systems that are way harder than I ever did, and that can be like a challenge in itself. Like Romanians, their school system, like they do hard maths from 5th grade, and like that can also do a lot for you. So it's just, you can't really compare people in this side, I feel like, because people are so different and from so many different places. So that's also why it's like so interesting being here, because seeing what shapes people and where they want to go based on where they're from, you never get the same answer. So credits to Sada for that.
I wanted to jump back on your experiences traveling the world. You said you like traveling. Can you talk to us about, you took a gap year, right?
Yes.
Can you talk to us about that? How was it? Where did you go?
Yes.
Some anecdotes.
The gap year was really, also, once again, thanks to being Norwegian, where I can have the opportunity where I can actually do this kind of things, because after the military, I wasn't completely sure what I wanted to do, and I really felt like I needed a break. So me and my friend Vera, who's also actually in the SAD now, we met in the exchange year, like into 2018. And then she went to Mexico while I was in the military, and she told me about Mexico, and I was like, oh wow, I really want to go there, and I'm like leaning into taking a gap year. Do you want to join? And we decided, okay, we're gonna go with all the money we have, and we're gonna see how long we last. So
that is
so that's what we did, and we honestly, we didn't have any like plan. You know how people like they do Spanish courses or they volunteer, or like we were just like, no, we're just gonna take every day for what it is and see what happens.
Wow.
So we bought our tickets from Madrid to Costa Rica, and from Costa Rica we went to Panama and Guatemala and Mexico and Colombia and Bolivia and Peru. So yeah, that was 10 months. We didn't go home, and
so no Mexico.
And Mexico.
And Mexico.
2 months in Mexico, I forgot.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, Mexico was the best part. And that was really, 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 really cool. Like, I think about that a lot, because just having the opportunity of meeting, also you meet a lot of people when you're backpacking, because, I mean, in South America, it's really common. And there's just so many like miracles, because the cultures are so different, so you really never know what to expect from a day. And I remember like there was a period of like, I think we counted, me and Vera, like 37 or 38 days in a row where we're just like, wow, this has been a great day. And we're like, when is it gonna stop? Like, it just keeps getting better. It was so good. And we usually, like, we always stayed in hostels, like the cheapest hostels, because we wanted to go for as long as we can, and that of course had like different experiences there, but like all in all, super happy. And I would recommend it to people like when they have the opportunity to go, because like we're lucky in Norway because we're financially independent when we're 18. In Estade, I come here because the state pays, like they give me a loan, they don't pay for everything, but it's not like the rest of the students where you have your parents who have to like actually like get you out in the world. And that's also why we can think like, okay, what do I actually like? You can be a bit selfish, I guess, and be like, okay, if I don't want to study, no, I don't need to. And that's like the privilege of the North, I think.
So what, your country like helps you financially for your studies? What does it do exactly?
Yes, so basically in Norway we have the oil fund.
Okay.
Like that's where all the oil money goes, and this is like divided into like different branches of society and the welfare and so and so. And a part of this is called like the student loan, I guess. And so basically they give you a student loan for the tuition and for staying here. So like now I have a loan for like the tuition fee and for like living cost and so. And when I finish Estade, 40% of it becomes a scholarship, so I only have to pay back 60%.
Okay.
And I can do that until I'm like 60.
60?
So, yeah, like you have to start paying back the loan when you're starting to work 100%.
Okay.
But I could technically still do a gap year and not pay my loan yet, if you know what I mean. So that's why like our situation is a bit different, because we are extremely lucky, and that's also why I've been so lucky to do so many different things. Like at my age, it's not very normal, but it's also because I've had like the opportunity to just do what I felt like, and that's not common.
I mean, I think it's a great perspective. Like you say, it's a privilege, but I think the Scandinavian model is famous for a reason, and it's effective. That's why you have such high levels of life satisfaction in those countries. Because people are fully like free in the sense that they have actual free will to do what they want. But you also took the opportunities, you know. There's a lot of people that have this option and don't take it. You went to Mexico without speaking Spanish or learning Spanish on the boat, and then going to Mexico and all the other countries you went to. And that's not given to everyone as well. So you have to give yourself some credit for that too.
Yeah.
But, that's true.
You know, no, I just wanted to bounce back because now you're living in Spain. Do you see many different aspects of the Spanish culture and the Latin American cultures? I don't want to generalize the Latin American culture, of course. Peruvian, Guatemalan, whatever. What similarities, differences do you see?
I think it's very different. I think the only similarity is the language, to be honest.
Okay.
Because no, it's completely different. In Spain, because I mean we're in Europe, so it's like way more like you go to work and like things are so and so, like it's comparable with Italy, I guess. But in South America, things are very like laid back. Even more like people have Spanish time here, but
informal.
Like Costa Rica, you have pura vida, so you don't have to do anything at any time. To be honest, like we were waiting for buses. It said it's gonna come at 5. It's coming at 12. Like, and you don't know if the bus is delayed.
And how do you react to
No,
that?
you just have to. It is what it is.
To me, that's like so. A lot of people here don't have that mindset. You know, like something maybe you learned.
Yeah.
But it's like people would get very frustrated. I know for me, I'm quite a patient person. I'm working on it, but if you see the bus at 5 and it comes 7 hours later and your whole day is kind of worked up about that, you just have to adapt, you know?
That's why you can't plan anything.
Yeah.
So we tried to stay 1 month in each country, but like things would happen, like, and a lot of things did happen, and most things did go wrong. Like we lost more buses than the ones we made. We lost our passports, like a lot of things.
How did you lose your passport?
Somebody stole them on the night bus in Mexico. So when we went out of the bus and we were supposed to fly the following morning, and we're just going to do a double check that we have all our documents ready before we're taking off, we couldn't find anything. And we were like, wait, the bus was the last place we were before coming to the apartment, and we haven't seen it since. So then we had to take a 34-hour bus to Mexico City.
Fun stuff.
Because we didn't have any passports, so we couldn't fly.
Yeah.
How did you get your another passport? How did you do to fly back?
No, see, that's why it's really nice to be Norwegian once again. Because we just went to the embassy and we took new photos, and they printed like new passports for us in Norway and sent them to Mexico 2 weeks later.
Okay, so you still had to wait 2 more weeks.
Yeah, but we were planning on being there for a while anyway, so it was actually fine. Like, we were only halfway in, so we just had to, once again, like, change the itinerary a bit, and we didn't go to the same places, but it ended up being a really great time, because we didn't have any valuables. Like, I only had my phone, I had nothing, like, we lost our SIM cards, we lost everything. So it was like, it was very liberating.
Yeah. Wow. But you just embrace it, like. It's good.
Yeah, we had like really good days after that. Like, and I remember me and Vera were like, "Why this passport thing? Like, it changes stuff, but for the better." Yeah.
And how did you plan your days? Like, were you in the night in the hostel thinking, "Okay, let's do a hike tomorrow," or how did it happen?
That's what's also really nice about living in hostels, and why I love it the most, because you meet so many people and everybody just gives you free advice. So either people have lived there, like they've been in the hostel for a couple of days, or they know someone. So yeah, you get most of your information just by talking to people, because like, especially in South America and like in different rural areas, like TripAdvisor, no. Like, you can't use that. Like, it's so outdated, and also people there don't put their stuff there. So you have to be like kind of flexible, but mostly we just talked to people. We of course had some goals, like Machu Picchu in Peru, like we knew we were going to do that. But other than that, we had our routine. Like, we would wake up, do yoga, because we're backpackers, and then we'd like try to train a bit, and then we'd have like an excursion of the day. Like, okay, we're gonna go see this waterfall, or rent bikes and do something, or go to the beach. It really depends. Like, we didn't know any of the weekdays. Like, at times I didn't know what month I was in. Like, it was all very, very laid back.
And so were you financing yourself with a loan, or with your savings, or how did you?
In my savings, because that's also a thing. Like, I started working when I was 13. Yeah.
What did you do at 13?
I was a gymnastics coach, and I was that for many years. And then, like, when I was in high school, I had 3 jobs.
What did you have on the sailing?
No, when I came back.
Okay, because you came
sailing
back
is boarding school.
Yeah.
Yeah, but boarding school was 1 year, and then you went for 2 more years.
No, one more year when I came back.
High school is only 2 years in Norway.
3. First year in Norway, second year on the boat, third year back in Norway.
Okay.
3 jobs.
And so you have 3 jobs?
3 jobs in the last year of my high school. I've always worked, because I've always known that I want to do things, and you can't really get that far. So I've always like tried to save, but like that's also like one of the privileges. Here it's a lot more focused on internships and working on your CV and so on, but like in Norway you can actually just get like a decent job with decent pay, which is really good in Norway. I got the money from the military. That was what I used for backpacking, and then I had my savings from the jobs, and yeah. So it all worked out, but like it was, in the end we were like, okay, looking at tickets back, and we're like, hey, how much longer can we stretch it?
Yeah.
So it was an interesting project.
Is it like a back to reality thing for you? Like, you were kind of in a dream in Latin America with Vera and your whole experience there, and then were you looking forward to coming back as well to a certain extent? Of course, you don't want to leave the laid-back life you have, but what were the dynamics in that sense?
think you do. And I think, like, one of the things I've thought about, like, we backpacked for 10 months, which is a bit...
Wild.
It's a long time.
So,
so, like, usually, like, most people do, like, for a year, and I think that makes more sense, because then you appreciate things more. Because in the end, it's, like, you're so used to seeing new things that it almost, like, it's a lifestyle. So then it's not this... like, it doesn't feel as special as you kind of imagine it to be, because it's just like every other day. But I always feel like I don't know, I felt like I've come home so many times now from like different things, and it's always really nice to come home because nothing really changes, and that's what I like about it. I have my friends, they're all like, in summertime at least, they're usually there. I always get surprised by how few, or you miss out on some things, but like in general, when you ask someone, okay, what's happened this year, it's like, oh, they broke up. I'm like, okay. And I got a new job. I'm like, congrats, but like, yeah, like that's what I like. It's always the same, and that's kind of what shocks me every year. It's like, okay, you feel like you're gone for such a long time, and you come back and you're in the exact same position as you were in when you left.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you come from a small city in Norway, right?
Yeah, 7th biggest.
Oh, my bad.
Well,
My bad.
well, only 4 of them are real cities, so
Okay.
it's a city status, but
How
like
it's called?
Sandnes. It's like 70,000 people. So it's not that big.
And where it is in Norway?
It's in on the west coast. Yeah, so it's southwest by the mountains and the fjords, like in that area, like a lot of fjords in that area, and really bad weather. That's really like it's raining like I don't know 250 days a year or something. It's yeah.
So how do you handle it mentally?
Well, it's actually I haven't lived at home now for a while, but usually you just keep yourself really busy in the winter time. That's why I've always worked, because there's not really after school, like if not you just go home and watch Netflix or like so it's good to just fill in your day so you don't think about it that much. But then summers are really nice because it's always light and the sun never goes down, especially in the north. When I was living there, that was beautiful. It's a good place and I really like it. Like I love it more and more for every year. But I remember when I lived there, I was like, I need to get out of here. And now it's like, I love it. Peace. It's like you appreciate things a lot more when you leave it and you get some perspective and you come back and you're like,
nice.
Yeah.
You're dropping so many life lessons near.
Yeah.
so many good takes. No, I really like it. I wanted to ask, because your father is from Uganda, correct?
Yes.
How was it growing up with the different cultural background, Norwegian, Ugandan? How was that for you? Or in your siblings as well? You said you have a sister?
Yes. It was fine, I would say. Like I feel like it's been very beneficial for me to be multicultural, because I think it adds a lot more to your life from a very early age. Being able to go to Uganda and see like the differences of the world, it definitely like opened my eyes for like traveling, and like you think about these things at a lot younger age than you usually would. And that's also I feel Norwegian because I've lived in Norway my entire life. But I also really think like the Ugandan part of me is more, I have to try to like not connect more, but like in some way when I get older I want like, okay, maybe like go and live there for half a year or like see, so I know like what's really going on there, because now we go 2 weeks every year and that's not really enough. But I would say that it was fine most of the time. Like of course like Norway it's not very multicultural, I'm not gonna lie. Like there's not like me and my sister and another guy from Pakistan, we were like the only like dark-skinned guy, like people in our entire school. And that of course growing up it isn't always easy, being like people always see you as different. And like sometimes like when I would walk out with my mom, I'd be like, okay, well people don't really think she's my mom. Or if I would walk out with my dad as well, because he's a lot darker than me, people would think, okay. So you get a bit like self-conscious. And also like of course when you're a kid, like it's not always easy being the different one, because I mean people bully and kids can be horrible at times. But then you grow up and like now I would never be without, and I really 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 appreciate that part of me. It's also been like hard at times, but it's also been good to always be two, because I have my sister and she has me, and like we're kind of in the same situation. So like knowing that, and like I think like the second you become more confident in yourself, that's when you start disregarding other people's thoughts. I feel like now I connect and I'm a lot more proud of that side than I was like from 6 to 13, for example. Because then it wasn't always the coolest being like, okay, the one black kid kind of. I must have said I've been lucky, but I also think there's a lot of things that Norway can work on. Just like knowing that Norway isn't white anymore. There's a lot of other people that live there too. And that is the reality today. Maybe it was 100 years ago, but that's not where we are today. And that's what I think, like, maybe sometimes people struggle to understand. But other than that, like, now I'm in a place where I'm, like, I totally just disregarded when people are trying to be mean. But younger, it was harder. But now it's, like, I mean, it's made me who I am, so I guess I wouldn't be without the experience. My parents really tried, and they said they've always tried to make sure that me and my sister feel confident in ourselves. You might not always be treated the same way as everybody else, and people can say mean comments, but, like, knowing that you know yourself and you know your own self-worth, then it doesn't really matter. So also big thanks to them, really, like, always building us up. You have to take the good out of it, and that's why, like, my cousins also in London, they always say, yeah, like, okay, people might say weird comments, but then you use it for what you can. Okay, quotation, all universities need multicultural people. Like, you just need to use it for what it's worth. So, like, there's pluses and negatives of everything, but you have to choose your own.
And I'm just wondering, like, how did your parents meet? Do you know it?
Yes, they met in Manchester. Because my dad was studying in Manchester, like his full degree, and my mom was doing an exchange from Norway. She was studying in Norway and she did an exchange to Manchester, so she was staying there for a year. And yes, then they met in some TV room and got along, and they were, I think, together for like 4 years, and then they had to get married for my dad to be able to come to Norway. So they got like kind of married in secrecy, and then they had like a big wedding where like my mom also went to, like my entire Norwegian family went to Uganda to like meet my dad's family, and my mom to meet her like mother-in-law and so on. So yeah, and then...
So you met in uni?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but my mom was like 26.
What she was studying? What she studying?
Law.
No.
Yeah.
Takes a while, no.
Yeah.
It takes a while.
6 years.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, and my dad had, because he came from Ugandan school system, so he had to do like an extra year before even starting to do university in England to make sure he was like up to speed. So he also had like 6 years in the end, I think.
And what did your dad study in Manchester?
Mechanical engineering.
Okay. And
Yes.
why did you choose BBA? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't know. I'm kidding.
That's really fair.
No, I always thought I was gonna do international relations. Like, I feel like I'm a lot more of like a people person than like a numbers gal. I'm not great with numbers, so sometimes I really don't understand myself how I ended up here. I always knew I wanted to study abroad, and I always knew that I wanted to like kind of be in a good university. And then I found out, okay, if I want to do, like, in the end game, I want to work with, like, not, like, something related to international relations. I want to be able to travel, and, like, I don't necessarily want to end up in finance. But I knew that I could do that by doing a BBA as well. And especially if I did it in an international university, I thought, like, okay, it's better to do BBA and then maybe go into international relations than doing international relations and then figuring out, I want to do business, because then you have to start from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can like do masters in like different things. Like I can do more PPE, or if I want to do more sociology, you can build from there. So it just made more sense in my head according to what I liked, where I saw myself at that point. And then I found Desade, and I found out I could live in Barcelona. I was like, okay, sold. I'll take it. Are you
still sold?
Yeah, I love Barcelona.
Okay.
So as long as Barcelona keep their game up, I'm here.
I think a lot of people can relate to that in the sense that they come to Barcelona, and Barcelona is such a student city, such a nice city as well. And that's the part that keeps them going. The people around, of course, the people you meet, and the whole university sometimes can be the main reason.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's part of life.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't have everything. That's a big one. Kidding. Never ends.
Where do you see yourself, I don't know, in 5 years or after a sad day?
Oh yeah, that would have to be after this. Well, I think I'm going to do a master's. Don't really know in what. And I don't really have like a dream job yet. So I just know I want to travel, not like necessarily through backpacking, but I want a job that allows me to maybe have more flexible times, because like I would like to spend some time in Uganda. Like for me, there's so many things I want to do, so I just have to make sure I finish my school things first, and then I don't know. I'm very also like, sometimes I don't really like making up my mind. So I really like finding a couple of options and then just leaving it to faith, and now like I'm fine with it, whatever it is, but then it doesn't feel like it's so much in my hands, because you know sometimes in this other people are very like, I'm gonna become this, I have an internship here, this is what I'm doing, and like I'm like, I never know what I want to do. Like never. But that's also like, I've always been very flexible, so for me it's fine not having like a 5-year plan per se, but I know with myself, and just like based on what I've like my interests and where I've been, I wouldn't see myself being back in Norway like in the next 10 years, I think.
20, so 10.
Well, it all depends. Like,
do you think you will live there afterwards, or do you want another country for living?
I would really love to live there, just because like I've had an amazing life in Norway, and it is a great country to like grow up in, and there's so many things you don't have to think about as a Norwegian citizen, I guess. But I'm also very open to like living other places and exploring more. I've always said like my kids are having the Norwegian passports, like that's the most important thing. If they have that, we can be anywhere. But that's really important.
that's just smart. That's just being smart. I mean, it's probably the strongest passport.
Yeah, it's up there somewhere. So no, I think people don't think I am, but I actually really am like a family person. Like I would love to like live closer to my parents, but I don't know about Sandnes. I really don't know. We'll see. Maybe like Oslo, like a bigger city in Norway at least. But I don't know.
You never know.
A lot of things can happen. Yeah.
We have a little segment where we ask our last guest to write a question for the next guest.
That's exciting.
So I have the question right here.
Do you know what it is? Or?
I do not know.
So we don't know what it is.
Oh.
We haven't looked at the question. So here it is. You can read it and respond to it.
Let's see. Who inspires you? Why do they inspire you? Oh, wow.
No, that's the tricky part, because since we don't know the question, we don't know where to plug it in.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
But actually, I was wondering that, so I'm happy.
Who inspires me? Well, my dad has always been a really big role model for me. Like, it's how, that's also like, oh, my dad, but like, I really like look up to him and like the way he approaches life. He's a very fair guy, like he really works hard, and I've always had a lot of respect for him. But on the other side, like I also, my mom is like the kindest, sweetest person ever. So like I feel like I've been very lucky by having like really like healthy role models, in my opinion, at least around me. And then besides that, I had a really good captain when I was in the military. He was so wise. You know, the kind of people who could just like, they talk to your heart and you can tell that everyone in the room feels it. Like he was so good in like putting things into words and like uniting the entire troop. I think everybody there agreed like, oh, I really want him to speak in my wedding because he's just
wow.
He was really, really good, and he always made us like, he always left us on a note where he left us thinking. He challenged us to like make the military experience not just mandatory and we're here because we have to and I'm gonna do this and I'm done at 6. He always like emphasized the like importance of doing things with meaning. So like even though you might do something that doesn't necessarily help you or gets you where you need to go, try to like put some effort or energy into everything you do, because if you're doing things halfway, you might as well not do it. You can't apply that to everything, but he was really good in like motivating us, and he always knew exactly what to tell us when we were down, because he would be walking us around when we did hard exercise and this stuff. It's easy when you see the captain like he's driving around in the car. I'm like, oh, you're gonna come talk to us? What are you gonna tell me? Like I was like, what are you gonna tell me? And he always knew exactly what to say. So I've always like really like looked up to him and like his ability to like really move people, and in that way actually like improving the entire troop. I gotta give it to him, Captain Lindeberg. Good man.
Big shout out.
I really did not think like one of my biggest role models was gonna be like a military character, but that's also like creds to Norway for actually building up leaders that are able to lead and not just being bosses. And he really did that, like, so.
I want to be Norwegian now.
Yeah, recruiting. I wish. No.
I'm kind of thinking now, like, just something I have in mind. Now that you did the military, there is a probability that you may be called for going to a war if there is a war. So how do you feel about it?
In the end of the day, if I have to go, I have to go. It comes me down that like I trust my own military to give us what we need to do our best job. Like they will give us the resources, they will give us the training. I wouldn't want to go with anyone else than the people I went with in the troop, because I know they're going to be exactly where I think they're going to be. Like everything is so in sync. So in that way I feel okay, it's gonna be like kind of fine. On the other side, I'm like, well, if they call me in, why would I go? Like who would go to war? Do you know what I mean? I would have to go anyways. It doesn't matter what I think about it politically or where I stand. And I guess because I would have to go, I would give it my best go and just go full on, like go Norway, like we got this, to help myself also do better in the field. But I've tried to think about it many times, like what is really my opinion about military and how would I want to ever do all the things I trained for 11 months. like, is that really me? Because I think when you're there, you get a bit brainwashed because it's your daily life. It's everything you do. You're so used to seeing guns because they're everywhere. But where I stand, I really don't know. I never had a choice either because I went to the military because it was mandatory. And if there is war, I would have to go. If not, I would be like like what do you call it? Like traitor?
Traitor.
Yeah, I would be a traitor.
I had this question that I was curious about. Because, like you said, you're only 22, you've had, as it seems, like 7 lives already. Is there maybe, I know there's probably many of those, but is there one happy moment or anecdote that you want to share that really meant a lot to you?
A happy moment? A happy moment. Why was that so hard? I'm kidding.
Of course, like, now that I posed the question like that.
I think happy moment, top moment of this year was by far going back to Uganda because I hadn't been there in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really long time. Like I always used to go like every other year, every year when I was younger. But then like Corona happened, and like Uganda is a very like it's very, very poor country, so they're struggling like with HIV. Now there's the whole anti-LGBTQ, so you get
they're one of the parliaments that like
you get killed if you're.
I'm not aware. Can you tell me?
In Uganda, you're not allowed to be gay.
Okay.
It's illegal. So if
Since when? Since ever? Or
it has
a year and a half, I think.
Yeah, like a year and a half ago is when it became a big media thing, but it has kind of been practiced for the last like it's never really been okay.
You get killed for that?
Yeah, it's like you get like so that's
the government does that.
Yeah, so
they passed
that's
a law in parliament.
Yeah, so that's why like now it's a very different situation in Uganda because all like the World Bank, like all the big helping organizations, and the UN are all going out of Uganda because they can't stand for their politics, of course, and I completely agree. But like the bad part about it is that it doesn't affect the people it needs to affect because they're doing this as a measure to fight like the parliament and the people who made and passed these bills. But like, in the end of the day, when you stop like providing extra food or medical care or like money or like education, it only affects like the people who are worse off from before of. So right now it's a very tricky situation. So it was very, 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 very nice to go back this summer and just see my family again. And it was also nice because now I'm like older and like I just saw Uganda in a different way. I felt like I understood a lot more of like how and why the country is the way it is. How like people are so different and how like different cultures kind of adds up to why things aren't really working as they should. So no, that was a really good, really, really, really good thing. That was by far the best.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
We asked friends of our guests to record the questions from their perspective, so it's not just us doing the interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And so we asked Alexandra to record a question for you. Alexandra, which is JEL 3 in my grades. So here you go.
Okay.
Hey Emma, so you spent the past few years sailing around the world, being in the military and traveling in South America with your friends. So I wanted to ask you if it was scary for you to decide to settle in Barcelona for 3 years and if that decision ever makes you feel a bit restless after doing so much in such a short amount of time.
Huh.
It's a different perspective.
Yeah, that's a different perspective. Yeah, by far. Like when I was starting here, I was like, this is a big commitment. Just because I've always like loved traveling, and for me, like the way I feel like I know myself, the only thing I really know that I like about myself is that I don't like to be in the same place for too long, or like I really like doing new things. So that's also why I took that into consideration when I chose ESADE, because I knew it was an international university and I was going to go to Spain, which like is really close to other countries, so it's easy to like take a weekend or like explore if you want to do those kind of things. But now I'm not thinking about it anymore. It's not like I'm getting like, oh, I've been here for 1.5 years, like what am I going to do now? Because I mean, we have so much fun to come, like we have an internship, we have exchange, and also I feel like sometimes it's like good to just like find a place that kind of you make it your own. So like now I feel like for the rest of my life I'm always gonna have like, oh, Barcelona, like I remember when I lived there and like it was a part of me, and like I feel like Barcelona, I always say that it's my best friend. Like I love Barcelona, so that's also why I feel like it's actually been fine. But in the beginning, I was a bit, It's also a big commitment because of the loan, because it kind of like, I'm tied to finishing it. So not that I've never thought about dropping out, but it's just like knowing that you're doing this. And you're done in 2026 and we can think about other stuff later. So, yeah, break mode.
Beautiful.
Yes.
And there is one last thing that we like to ask
It's
to
been
excited
long.
students is what would be the message that you would like to share with the community? It doesn't have to be a whole thing, but just one last thing at the end of this interview that you may want to share with our
The people
With
here.
the SADE?
Yeah, people SADE.
not necessarily the institution. The
This
students.
is Raymond
students.
Lull.
The
No,
students.
the students at
Oh, just the
here at
students?
Not the
university.
dean.
Okay. Okay, so not program direction. I would say, well, what I've been thinking about lately with exams coming up and everyone being super busy is like, just take 1 second and don't like be so hard on yourself. Things aren't going to be perfect. Finals are hard. Everybody thinks it's super hard. Nobody's super comfortable. It's a stressful period. But you have to realize that just because you're not where you want to be, it doesn't mean you're not doing anything. So even though like group projects are coming and you're not progressing the way you would like to, as long as you like put one foot in front of the other, that's good sometimes. So yeah, cut yourself some slack.
Thank you.
Beautiful message.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you guys.
For you listening, let us know any feedback if you have any. Follow us on Transpose Magazine. This is a Transpose podcast. And yeah, give us a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. And we'll see you very soon.
Where do you
Bye-bye.
find it?
Oh, it's found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we have a YouTube channel as well. Thank you, Emma,
Perfect.
for asking. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.